I definitely am a journaler, so I did that piece, and I also just sort of sat down and dictated. Well, for me, the two moments are connected in a couple of ways, but I decided to become a prosecutor because I saw my uncle in front of me.
There are stories that grab your attention right from the start, and this one's no exception. Imagine waking up, scrolling through your usual newsfeed, and stumbling upon a lawsuit so sprawling it dwarfs most crime sagas you've ever heard of. Not just any run-of-the-mill lawsuit, but one invoking the RICO Act, the same legal hammer originally forged to take down organized crime syndicates. Suddenly, a respected surgeon's name is appearing alongside references to insurance fraud, questionable surgeries, and whispers of a massive kickback scheme. The surgeon in question, Dr. Emanuel Manny Hostin. If that name rings a bell, it's probably because of his wife, Sunny Hostin, co-host of a daytime talk show known for tackling controversial and headline-grabbing topics. Yet the real bombshell here is the accusation that Manny, along with nearly 200 other defendants, is at the center of what might be one of the largest medical fraud cases in New York's recent history. You'd expect something like this to be a front-page tabloid sensation, and indeed, the chatter is loud. Many are asking, how could a well-known doctor find himself implicated in a scheme typically associated with gangster flicks and mafia takedowns? Are patients really going under the knife for procedures they might not even need? And why is the insurance company, American Transit, leveling such jaw-dropping allegations now? Before you even think this is an open and shut situation, be warned. Both sides in this legal showdown have plenty of dirty laundry to air. To appreciate the gravity of these accusations, let's unpack the RICO Act, short for the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. When you hear RICO, your mind probably leaps to mafia stories and old gangster trials. That's because RICO was initially designed to dismantle entire criminal enterprises by implicating everyone who played a part, no matter how small, in an orchestrated scheme. Here, though, it isn't the mafia in the hot seat. It's a cluster of medical professionals, including surgeons and healthcare practitioners. Why RICO? Allegedly, this case involves a network of individuals who conspired to make money from insurance claims by performing unnecessary surgeries, billing for procedures that never happened, and taking financial incentives to keep the scheme rolling. Prosecutors are essentially painting a picture of a modern-day hustle. Replace mob bosses with surgeons in scrubs, and instead of smoky backrooms, imagine pristine operating rooms. The number of defendants, over 180, makes it sound less like a lawsuit and more like a grand ensemble cast.
You know, I have this huge platform on The View, and I just started thinking about giving voice to the voiceless. What some people don't know about me is they know I'm a prosecutor, but I'm from the South Bronx projects. Like, I'm really just a everyday person, and I remember when I was 7, my uncle was in front of me, and our family never talked about it.
The heart of the matter is that patients, many of them taxi, Uber, or Lyft drivers, may have been ushered onto operating tables for arthroscopic procedures they didn't actually need. Insurance companies footed the bills, and the lawsuits claim that certain physicians pocketed hefty payouts or kickbacks. To the everyday patient, it's a terrifying thought. Trust your doctor for a surgery only to later discover it might have been more about financial gain than medical necessity. One name in this monumental list has garnered particular attention: Dr. Emanuel Manny Hostin, an orthopedic surgeon with a practice focusing on sports medicine and joint procedures. To the people who know him professionally, Manny is a reputable figure who has spent years building a solid track record, operating on patients who often had no insurance coverage, and fighting insurance companies for fair compensation. If you listened only to his supporters, you'd think he was a champion of ethical patient care. But the lawsuit tells another story. It alleges that Manny was deeply involved in fraudulent insurance billing, receiving kickbacks for recommending surgeries that patients might not have actually required, and charging for medical services that, according to the plaintiff, never took place. If these claims hold any weight in court, they paint a damning picture. Suddenly, the kind doctor image clashes with a narrative of illicit deals and hidden profits. In the midst of all this, Manny's legal team has slammed the accusations as unfounded and desperate. His lawyer has gone on record accusing the plaintiff, American Transit Insurance Company, sometimes abbreviated as ADDICT or ADDIC, of weaponizing a massive lawsuit purely to dig itself out of financial turmoil. According to Manny's defense, the real story is that American Transit is on the brink of collapse and they are scrounging for ways to recoup their losses by targeting prominent doctors. Let's not forget that big insurance providers often wear the black hat in the public's eye. Stories of denied claims, underpayment to doctors, and bureaucratic red tape abound in the healthcare world. Critics say these companies prioritize profit margins over patient well-being, using every loophole available to pay out as little as possible. So, when American Transit stands up and points a finger at Manny and other doctors, it's fair to wonder if there might be an ulterior motive. The crux of American Transit's complaint is that for years, they've been bilked out of staggering sums of money.
I do. The first book, Summer on the Bluffs, is becoming a series. I can't say where, but I can tell you that Octavia Spencer's in it, and she's my production partner.
Wow.
I can't believe I just said it, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the bigger partner you can get.
Yeah.
But that's unbelievable. But this is inspired by the summer that you spend.
All because certain medical professionals manipulated the system. Allegedly, Manny and other named physicians submitted inflated claims, performed or recommended procedures that padded their pockets, and effectively turned the insurance claims process into a gravy train. If proven, this would be a staggering breach of patient trust. Despite the sensational claims, American Transit has its own problems. The defense wants to highlight everything from the company's precarious finances to their alleged past misconduct. If they're in the red, it stands to reason they might try to paint Manny and others as the villains in hopes of clawing back millions. As with any legal battle, truth isn't always black and white. Sometimes it's wrapped in layers of finger-pointing and hidden agendas. While Manny battles to clear his name, his wife, Sunny Hostin, is notably silent on the matter. Ordinarily, she's known for her outspoken views on social issues and political topics. On her daytime platform, she often delves into controversies head-on, pointing out injustices and sparring with co-hosts or guests. Yet, when it comes to her husband's legal troubles, she's chosen to keep her cards close to her chest. Some speculate this silence is a strategic move. In high-stakes legal showdowns, words can be twisted and public statements might be used against you in court. Sunny, who's no stranger to the intricacies of legal discourse, she's a former federal prosecutor, likely understands how a single statement could tip the scale in the media arena. Another camp believes she's trying to shield her own reputation. If she speaks too soon or defends her husband before all the facts emerge, she could find herself a target of public backlash. Of course, fans are curious. Many want to see if Sunny's usual moral stances align with her real-life actions. Is she actively supporting her husband behind closed doors, or does she harbor doubts about the allegations? The public's questions remain unanswered. For now, her silence, especially for someone with a daily platform, speaks louder than any on-air commentary could. Amid all the allegations, it's easy to overlook the real victims if this turns out to be true. The patients. Whether you're dealing with a chronic joint problem or a sudden injury, surgery is a daunting prospect.
It's my parents. I'm not saying that just because they're here, but I think in many respects they were teenagers and they ended up with this kid who was very inquisitive. My mother was studying to be a teacher, so she did a lot of her lesson plans on me. And so by the time I was 4, I was reading the New York Times. And so that sounds crazy, but that's how we lived.
You trust that your physician is making decisions based on your health needs, not on potential bonuses or kickbacks. If these claims are proven, it means that some patients were needlessly put under anesthesia and subjected to the risks of surgery for profit. This possibility cuts to the heart of a bigger issue. Where do we draw the line between medical necessity and profit-driven care? In the United States, healthcare can be an expensive labyrinth, where insurers and providers often lock horns over billing. Patients can find themselves stuck in the middle, unsure if they're receiving essential treatment or just fueling a revenue stream. RICO cases like this strike a nerve because they expose how vulnerable patients can be if a few key players decide to bend the rules. Then there's the broader ripple effect. Each fraud case that comes to light chips away at public trust in the medical profession. Most doctors and nurses go into healthcare to help people, not milk them for money. But it only takes a few well-publicized scandals to cultivate widespread skepticism. If Dr. Manny Hostin, a physician many regarded as ethical, is indeed involved, it becomes a cautionary tale for anyone stepping into a hospital. While RICO charges bring severe penalties, it's important to underscore that Manny has not been found guilty of anything yet. These are still allegations. And in the American judicial system, the accused is innocent until proven otherwise. However, if a court rules against him, Manny could face crippling consequences. Everything from hefty fines to possible jail time. The same goes for the other doctors wrapped up in this colossal lawsuit. We should also remember that RICO cases can be notoriously complex, dragging on for years. Defense attorneys will likely challenge the validity of each claim, question the credibility of witnesses, and attempt to break down the narrative that Manny was part of any organized scheme. Prosecutors, on the other hand, may aim to leverage any available evidence, emails, billing records, testimonies from alleged co-conspirators, to tie him to a broader network of wrongdoing. The insurance company is also fighting for its survival. If American Transit's accusations fail in court, it could leave them more financially vulnerable and tarnish their reputation even further.
I definitely am a journaler, so I did that piece, and I also just sort of sat down and dictated a lot of my memories, and I just started from the beginning. I started from my childhood in the South Bronx projects, talked about my mother, my father, you know, the fact that they sacrificed everything for me and sort of lived lives of dreams deferred and poured everything in me.
In high-profile cases like this, reputations can be just as valuable as money, which makes every accusation and rebuttal a make-or-break moment. Beyond the headline-grabbing drama lies a much bigger conversation: the fragility and complexity of the American healthcare system. Critics argue that insurance policies, reimbursement rates, and hospital protocols create an environment ripe for exploitation. When profit margins become the primary driver, the temptation to overbill or recommend questionable procedures can grow. This isn't a new phenomenon. Stories of hospitals inflating prices for routine procedures, insurance companies denying coverage for life-saving treatments, and patients bankrupting themselves over hospital bills circulate regularly. However, a RICO case of this magnitude ups the ante. It suggests that parts of the system might be more corruptible than we want to believe, and that shady alliances can form between providers and insurers under the right conditions. Such revelations also spark calls for reform. Could stricter oversight or more transparent billing practices help root out fraud? Should regulators impose harsher penalties on both healthcare providers and insurance companies that cut corners or manipulate data? While the Manny Hostin saga may feel hyper-specific, it echoes broader systemic issues that many believe demand urgent attention. So, where does this leave us? We have a well-known surgeon caught in a legal firestorm, a high-profile spouse who's chosen a strategic hush, and an insurance company determined to claw back what they claim are illegitimate payouts. Each new development peels back another layer of a system that some say prioritizes financial incentives over patient well-being. At this juncture, the best anyone can do is watch how the lawsuit unfolds. Manny could emerge vindicated if the plaintiff's evidence proves flimsy, or he and other defendants might be found culpable in a scandal that redefines public perception of medical ethics. In either scenario, the fallout is bound to change the conversation about healthcare fraud for years to come. Those on the outside are left with questions that stretch beyond this one case.
Well, for me, the two moments are connected in a couple of ways, but I decided to become a prosecutor because I saw my uncle in front of me. And I saw that he didn't seem to matter to the police. He didn't seem to matter to prosecutors.
How do we preserve trust in a system where the line between necessary treatment and money-making ventures can get blurry? Who's really looking out for patients, especially those with limited options for healthcare coverage? And what steps should regulators, lawmakers, and professional boards take to ensure that the few bad actors don't undermine the hard work of honest doctors across the country? The truth is, we won't have answers overnight. Court proceedings can be glacial, and legal teams often play their cards close to the vest until the final verdict. In the meantime, we're left to speculate on who's genuinely seeking justice and who's maneuvering to protect their interests. As this story continues to evolve, one thing remains certain: it's sparked a dialogue about ethics, profit, and trust in healthcare. Issues that affect everyone, regardless of whether you're a patient on the table, a doctor in scrubs, or an insurer footing the bill. If you found these revelations eye-opening, keep an ear to the ground, because each hearing, each new piece of evidence, could rewrite the narrative in unexpected ways. There's a fine line between legal fiction and reality, and this case stands poised to challenge everything we thought we knew about how doctors, insurance companies, and patients interact. In the end, Manny Hostin's guilt or innocence is for the court to decide. Until that gavel comes down, the swirling questions, the mounting curiosity, and the tension between one surgeon's defense and a giant insurance firm's accusations will only grow. So, stay vigilant, stay curious, and remember that sometimes the biggest revelations aren't found in headlines, but in the details that surface when we ask tough questions. Thank you for reading this deep dive. This unfolding drama is likely to take more twists and turns, so keep your eyes peeled for updates on the legal battles, public reactions, and any cracks that might widen in our increasingly scrutinized healthcare system. After all, when money, trust, and human well-being intersect, the stakes couldn't be higher, and the outcome, for better or for worse, could set a precedent for years to come.